everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And to those of you listening to the podcast, welcome back. We're so glad you have joined us in the podcast. I'm so thankful to have Ellie Bryan as my guest today, and she's going to share a very tender subject with us that God has given her the boldness to share, and I'm so thankful. Before we get started, though, I have a couple of housekeeping things I want to tell you about. So last week, I discovered on YouTube that YouTube will allow me to turn all of my episodes, all my past episodes, into podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
And literally, it was like the click of 3 buttons. So if you go to my channel, at the top there's tabs like videos, shorts. If you go to playlist and choose the Traci Jaco Ministries playlist and click on that, it will open up. It looks like you're playing every single episode at one time, but you're not. You just click on that. It opens up, and you can listen to any of the videos as a podcast now. So that was super exciting because so many people have told me, please turn it into a podcast because I don't have time to sit and watch, but I do like to listen. So that's so exciting. I will continue, though, to upload on Spotify and get the actual podcast on more ways to listen as well. So anyway, that's super exciting. So any of the videos now you can go back and listen to as a podcast. So
that's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So actually, I think it's just a new thing that just came down the pike. And so my husband is even wanting to do it for church so people can listen to messages instead of having to just try to listen to them on YouTube. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, okay. So I'm going to let Ellie just introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Ellie Bryan. I am a newly graduated high school student, just graduated, so super stoked. I started college early, so I am currently attending Ivy Tech, and I'm getting my major in social work / human services. So that's what I'm going towards.
That's awesome.
So my plan is to go there to get my associates, then transfer over to IUPUI, and no application needed. I'm already in. So I'm very happy about that.
Exciting.
I'm 17 years old. Hard to believe. I lived in Kentucky. Fun fact, I lived in Kentucky for about 8.5 years, and then we moved here, and then my parents started a church in Avon, Indiana, called Lifeway Apostolic Church. So forever blessed for that, for God gifting that to us.
Yeah.
So, but hate to say, but Kentucky will always be my home.
Oh,
so, I love Indiana, don't get me wrong, but Kentucky has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, because that's where you lived the first 8 years of your life.
Yeah, that was my everything, you know. So I miss the people there, I really do. But they support me from a distance, so I'm very happy to have people like that.
Yeah, we were just at her open house last weekend, and there were several from Kentucky there. Yes, it was so awesome.
Yes.
Her mom, Traci Bryan, was on my channel on the episode Iron Sharpens Iron because Tim and Teresa are some of our absolute dearest friends, and time in our lives where we needed friends our age that we could just get to know. We were newlyweds, and the Lord directly sent Tim and Teresa to us, and we are so thankful. So to have Ellie on my channel is such a blessing, and I am so excited. Of all the videos that I have done on this channel, this is the most sensitive and tender video that we have done, because Ellie is going to share her experience of having been abused sexually as a child and the warning signs that her mom and dad didn't see, which, you know, you say you don't hold that against them.
No. Yeah.
But now as a 17-year-old, she feels a strong burden to let parents know what some of those warning signs are. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So I want to say to any of you, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that some of you that are watching have experienced this, have experienced even more traumatic things than what Ellie went through. We are not making light of anything. We come to you with a burden and just a sincere desire to help parents see warning signs that may help their children, you know, and prevent some things from happening. And because for too long, the church has been silent on these things. And so, on this channel, I have talked about anxiety, fear, been very transparent about things that I've gone through in my life. I have very transparent guests on here. So it is time that we talk about this. It's time that the church talks about this, because this is an issue. It has been for years. And so I'm so proud of you, Ellie. I'm so proud of you for your transparency and being willing to come on. So I'm going to start by asking you a few questions, and then I'm just going to let you speak from your heart. So first question, at what age were you when the abuse started?
So it started at the age of 6, and it occurred off and on because I lived in a different state at the time. But the last incident that happened was at the age of 9.
9 years old.
Yes.
From 6 to 9. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. I just
Crazy
can't
to think about.
It is. Was it someone you trusted?
100%. I trusted this person. Not only was it a family member, unfortunately, but it was a person that held spiritual authority over our family. So when you have that, and he was an elder.
Yeah.
So when all those three things come into play, you are very highly respected and you are loved.
Yes.
So I would say I trusted and I loved this person, and I thought he protected me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. So unfortunately, sometimes people in authority take advantage of that authority and use it to abuse. And that is exactly what happened in Ellie's situation. So it started at 6. The last instance was at 9. What age were you when you brought it to your parents' attention? And what caused that? What caused you to talk to your mom and dad about it?
I finally talked about it or brought it to my parents' attention when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
I was 14.
Ellie.
And it's so hard to think about, because I'm like, I suffered all that time. And to give a little backstory between that time frame, I made myself believe that it was a dream, because I didn't want to come to a stop of, man, this actually happened.
Right.
I thought I was delusional. I thought I was dumb for thinking that this could even happen to me. So I was 14 when I finally, it was becoming too heavy on me.
Yeah.
And you know how, when we have chains on us and you feel so heavy. And finally, I told my parents a while down after I explained to them everything that happened. It was almost like the chains lifted. I wasn't carrying the burdens that weren't my fault.
Right.
So that was what happened. And I'll go into more detail as we go through that. But I was 14 years old.
Oh my goodness. So from 6 to 14, you carried this.
Yeah.
On your own.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What was your parents' reaction?
So I was extremely scared. I was extremely nervous because I was scared that I wasn't going to be believed. When I do want to touch on this, when you have a person that is very highly respected and that hold spiritual authority over your life, and they have that hand over you, you don't think that no one could ever do something like that.
Right.
So I was scared coming to my parents and telling them that this certain person did something to me, that they wouldn't believe me, because there's no way in the world that that is possible. So I was so overwhelmed with feeling guilty, of feeling like shame and disgust of my own self. So that night, if it's okay, I do want to talk about a little bit before what made me lead to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a couple weeks prior to me finally coming out to my parents, I was having flashbacks, because that whole time I was telling myself that it was a dream, that never happened. I'm clueless. Like, Ellie, you don't know anything. So sure enough, those 2 weeks, a couple weeks prior, I was just contemplating all the stuff that I was thinking in the flashbacks of, oh my, like this actually happened to me. And every night I cried myself to sleep because I felt disgusting in my own skin. I felt guilty. I felt shame, and I thought it was my fault. And one night in particular that I remember is, I love looking at family albums. I love just the memories of it, reliving the happy moments, right?
Yeah.
So that night, I have a photo album in my room, and I pulled it out, and I was looking through pictures, and sure enough, the man that unfortunately abused me was in every family photo. And as I was looking through those photos, I was having conflicted feelings of love and hatred.
Oh my goodness.
And not understanding, why do I feel this way?
Right.
And in that moment, I told myself, Ellie, you can't do this anymore. You can't keep playing pretend that everything's okay when it's not.
Yeah.
So sure enough, in that moment, I said, you're going to go to bed tonight. We're going to pray. We're going to go to bed. And in the morning or that night, we're going to tell mom and dad, no matter what they say, no matter what's going to happen, you need to let yourself free.
And I just want to say, now look, we don't understand why this happened to Ellie. We don't understand. And I'm sure her mom and dad, as praying people, are like, dear God, why didn't we know? Why weren't we sensitive? God, why didn't you tell us? But I can see the power of praying parents right here. Because for a 14-year-old to be able to come to themselves with this much maturity, with this much self-awareness, and say, I'm going to go tell my parents no matter what. I'm doing this. To me, I can see the prayers that were prayed, God, be with our kids, give our kids direction. I can see, even through all this horrible stuff, the Lord still like guiding you to, and giving you the boldness to say, enough is enough. Because not very many 14-year-olds, sometimes they turn to other things beside the Lord. Like cutting. This is where a lot of that stuff, like that's their escape. But for you, thank God, you know the Lord. At that time, I'm sure you were already filled with the Spirit, baptized, Thank God you turned to your parents and to Jesus. And that is beautiful. In the middle of all the horribleness, that is a beautiful thing.
And fortunately for me, God blessed me with wonderful parents. I can't thank them enough for the amount of support and love that they have shown.
They're amazing.
And I tell everybody, they're my foundation in life. I don't think, other than God, I don't think I would have been able to accomplish the things that I have done if it wasn't for the support of my parents.
Right.
So, and you know that. I mean, you've known them for a very long time. So
they're amazing.
You're 100% right on what you just said. And that just gave me a new perspective on it, because I didn't think of it as that. So that's good for sure.
That's good. Okay. So what was their reaction?
So that night I went outside, and we were having a family night. We were all outside on the backyard, and all four of us were outside, and I asked my brother if he could leave the room because he was young. I didn't want him to feel any type of way. So I asked him, hey, Evan, can you step out? And so it was just me and my mom and my dad, and I'm sitting on the chair, and I just like wailed, like tears I've never cried before.
Wow.
And it was all the emotional buildup that I never let go. And I said, I have something that I need to tell you guys. And the first thing that my mom told me was, Ellie, no matter what you say, I believe you and I love you. Those are the first words that she told me. And I'm like, okay. And I said, something happened to me. And then my mom, without any hesitation, she came over and gave me the biggest hug and kept repeating to me, I believe you. I need you to tell me everything. I believe you and I love you. And showed a true mother bear in that moment. Yes.
And just being Teresa's friend, I can tell you that's how she, from my husband and I first learning about this situation, that is how your mom and dad have both been. Like, truth has to prevail. Truth, truth has to prevail. And they literally fought for Ellie. Absolutely.
Really did. And something that my dad says till this day is, something to live by is wake up every day and just making the right decision, no matter the outcome. Because especially when you have a church and you have things to like juggle around. You do have to make some tough decisions, especially when it comes to this.
Right.
But my parents didn't hesitate on what was right or wrong. They just chose right. And this is how it ended up. And I'm forever thankful for that.
Oh my goodness.
So,
because if they would have been like, well, that was a long time ago and it hasn't happened since you were 9 and you would probably be a mess.
Yes.
And you would be a mess.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that is how it is for some people.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. It's very sad.
Yeah. Okay. So the goal of this video, it could go so many directions from here, but the goal of this video, we decided, is that Ellie wants to share some of the warning signs. So go ahead.
So I say these as red flags. So I just say, hey, little red flag. Because when I think of something, I'll look for either is it good or bad. And if there's little red flags that indicate, okay, that's a no-no.
Right.
So I wrote down some. So if you see me looking at my notes, it's because I wrote some stuff down. So I have 3 main red flags that I have. And one that I want to talk about is the change in behavior, that a person that has been abused, you have a change in behavior. And I want to share a little bit of a personal experience with myself.
Go ahead.
So at the young age, it started when I was 6. So between the ages of 6 to 9, it's almost like I flipped a switch. Mm-hmm. And it was very weird to my parents. And, you know, when my mom would make nail appointments, so go get a mani and pedi, I would make sure my mom would call ahead of time to say, it needs to be a girl, not a man. And my mom was very confused on why she didn't want a man tending to me. That was just weird, out of character for me, because I'm a very outgoing kid. I don't care what happens. Like, I would just go with the flow.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember another time of when we went to the dentist and I had to get a tooth pulled out and I had to get a shot to numb the pain and pull it out, that kind of stuff. But a male came in the room, and the main doctor, and was going to extract that tooth. And as soon as I saw him, I started again wailing in fear, crying, get out, get out, get out. And I was terrified. Yeah. And my mom was trying to, you know, stop the tracks and like kind of defend herself, because she didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Why is this the change in behavior?
Right. Because up until that time, you had no problem at the dentist, whether it was male or female.
Yep,
easy, go with the flow.
Yeah. I was a very outgoing kid, and then overnight, my mom saw a change. And of course, in the moment, I didn't know what I was doing. Right. I was just afraid of all men in general. Right. And I wouldn't let a man touch me. I didn't even like when men looked at me. And if a man was in the room with me, I'm screaming because I didn't want him to touch me. Right. And it's funny because the dentist guy, I don't even know his name or anything, he knew I loved Justin Bieber at the time. And so he was trying to calm me down by trying to sing Justin Bieber songs. Oh, goodness. It was
which only made it worse, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. And so he was trying to calm me down, but it was almost like it engulfed and made the flames bigger. And I was just a hot mess. And so the nail tech, the dentist, anything that had to do with a man, I freaked out because I didn't want anything happening to me.
Right. And you had like self-preservation. Like you knew, call ahead to the nail salon and make sure that a man will not work on like, you know, that even at such a young age for those thoughts, like she was like, you're trying to protect yourself from another.
And I remember mom like questioning me. She's like, Ellie, what are you doing? Like, you're okay. Like, why are you overthinking this? Why? I had so much anxiety about it. And thinking about it today, it's kind of mind blowing that I acted that way. Because obviously I'm going through the healing process still. Right. And just looking back and knowing that I did that, it makes me sad that I had to deal with that.
Right.
You know?
Oh, it is. Yes.
And so going with the behavior changes, and then behavior changes with a particular sex. So if doesn't matter who you were abused by, it could be male or female. If you see them interact with that gender differently, that is a red flag. Right. That is something to look out for. Yeah. Because in my case, that is what happened to me.
Yes. So let me interject here. Ellie's mother, we included her and her dad, and in all this discussion here. And one thing that Teresa sent a message to me that said she wishes that when Ellie changed her behavior like that she wouldn't have put it on Ellie. She said the questions of why is she being so weird? Why is she shutting down at the male dentist, at the doctor, at the nail tech? Teresa says her anxiety should have been a red flag, but instead Teresa was embarrassed. Like, why is my kid acting like this? Yeah. And listen, I cannot put any blame on Teresa like that, because sometimes kids just act, you don't know why they're doing why are you acting like this? But she didn't recognize her issue when she was put in a position with a man that was controlling the surroundings and what was happening to her in her little mind. Your mom says she was trying to control what was happening. Like, if she knew there was going to be a man, like I just said, you were self-preservation. Yeah. She said if she had recognized these red flags, which is why we're talking about this today, she would have then started asking Ellie questions. Because up until 6 years old, Ellie, there was no problem with the dentist, no problem with the doctor, outgoing, no fits, no anxiety. And then all of a sudden, all of this started happening. So Teresa says, I just wish I would have known the warning signs so that I could have started asking the questions. Yeah. And so I feel like this is amazing. This is because all parents, it's not just Teresa and Tim or me. I know when my kids misbehave or act crazy, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way? Because I don't want them to embarrass themselves or me. Yeah. And so that is natural. Every one of us as parents have had those thoughts.
We want to keep a good reputation about ourselves and our image and our family.
Absolutely.
So,
right.
For sure.
But as her mom, she says, I wish I would have just seen the sign so I could have asked the question. So that's why we're having this discussion.
Yeah. And one thing that when me and my mom were talking about that, another thing that I want to tell parents is you will never say, there will never be a time where asking, are you okay, is going to be irrelevant. And there's never going to be enough times where you can't ask that, or I just ask, are you okay? Build those relationships with your children. Because in my case, I wasn't afraid of coming to my parents because I felt love from them. Right. I knew that they loved me. And there's never going to be enough times where you can say, are you okay? Is there anything that you need? And even daily checkups. Like, who are you hanging out with today? How do you feel around them? This, that, and the other. Right. And there's so many ways or things that you can say that isn't starting the conversation of, has someone touched you, or is someone making you feel uncomfortable? Right. But when you lead those conversations, eventually it will work its way out. Right. And also another thing that I would strongly encourage parents is don't be afraid to have the uncomfortable conversations. Yeah. As at the age of 6, I never got the sex talk. I never knew the actual name for a private part. I learned all this stuff when I was in first grade at school. Everybody was talking about it, and I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was right and what was wrong.
And in first grade. Grade.
I was exposed to it from classmates. Right. And so I came home with a lot of questions. And so my parents were already very protective over me and who I hang out with to make sure nothing happened with me. But something that they avoided was having the uncomfortable conversations of, nobody touches you here. This is the name for it. Nobody touches you, or just the sex talk in general.
Right.
And
because, and I remember her saying, because she wanted you to keep your innocence as long as you could.
She didn't want to taint my mind.
Right.
And think anything, provocative about it.
Right.
So, and that's just something that I strongly encourage is my parents say, like, if I would have known, I would have went back and I would have had that conversation with you.
At a younger age.
Yes. Yeah. And one thing that I will say is predators, they know what they're doing.
Right.
They're very sneaky and they're very good at it.
Right.
And something that me and my mom were talking about was this person, he knew the teaching styles my parents had. He knew that my parents didn't have that talk with me. So that gave him more leverage to be more sneaky. Oh. So if you can avoid that at all costs, start at a young age.
Right.
Have safe words. I remember we had a password when we were kids for stranger danger.
Yeah.
We had a passcode. And if somebody came up to us, what's the passcode? Right. So things like that. But you can do that in a more, to minimize abuse as much as possible.
Right.
So that's another thing that I strongly encourage is don't be afraid. Kids are smart.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to learn it,
already.
And if they're not going to learn it from you, they're going to learn it from someone else.
Right.
And unfortunately, I learned it from school, and I think we all can agree we don't want our kid learning anything from our school system.
Right.
And especially, in school, they're going to learn the worldly way of what it is and then everything about it. Right. But then in a Christian home, in a Christian mindset, there's ways to go about set boundaries for your family. Yes. Honestly, because those boundaries will protect your heart, protect your mind, where you go, who you talk to. Right. So it expands in all different directions, honestly.
So good. So, how are you doing now?
All glory to God. I'm smiling.
Yeah,
I'm
all
here.
the time.
I'm happy, and I'm not going to discount. We all have bad days.
Yeah.
We all have days where we're like, it's one of those days.
Yeah.
But you can't take away all the good that God has done for you. And for me, I learned what self-worth was through this process. Right. And I learned how to encourage myself.
Oh, and that's so good.
I learned that, this is guiding me in a way of where God wants me to go. Right. And we were just talking about a scripture, and I wanted to read that scripture. Is Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of lives.
Wow.
So the abuse that occurred in my life, look where I'm standing.
Yes.
I'm taking preventive measures for other parents, for teenagers, for anybody that is watching.
Right.
It's up to us to determine how we're going to handle it what we're going to do with it.
Oh, so good.
And for me, I'm tired of sitting back.
Yeah.
I'm tired of, hearing. I've talked to other women that have been abused, and they were shut down.
Yeah.
They were silenced. And I want to take as much, I want to help as much as I can. But going back to what we talked about, I'm doing a lot better than what I did. Not saying I still have a lot of things that I need to grow on, that I need to heal from. Yeah. But I'm going to be in the present now. And I'm so thankful for how much God has helped me. And I went through a trial of depression. I went through a trial of extreme anxiety. I didn't know what was a good relationship or a bad relationship.
So true.
I was terrified of having a boyfriend.
Yeah.
I was terrified of, being around men. I really was. And I'm going to be honest and pretty transparent is for a while, I was terrified of other ministers. Yeah. I was terrified of spiritual leaders in all shapes and forms.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not even about the church. It's about any person that has authority.
Right.
It can be police officers. It can be a teacher. It can be anyone.
Yes.
And, I was terrified. But something that I have to realize is not everyone is out to get me. Right. Not everyone is out to hurt anybody.
So good.
So it's all about perspectives, and it's what lens you want to look from.
Right.
And God will give you that clarity.
That's so good.
He will give you the right perspective.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
He does.
You just got to give it to him and trust him with it.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
if man's not going to help you through everything,
Right.
your parents will be an amazing support system. But if you don't give it to the one God that can
Right.
truly help,
So true.
you're probably not going to get to where you want to go.
True.
So,
And so, do you feel like this is a ministry avenue that the Lord has called you to?
100%. I'm actually going to start a segment in my church on the creating awarenesses and talking to other mothers, and not even mothers, but fathers, parents, grandparents,
Yeah.
uncles, aunts,
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
Because if I can prevent another young child from being hurt like I was, I will do anything in my
That's
power
incredible.
to do that.
That's incredible.
And so this was kind of getting the foot in the door a little bit, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And this is something I truly want to pursue, and that's why I'm getting my degree in social work.
It's incredible.
I want to be a certified counselor.
Awesome.
Lisa is kind of a role model to me.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So, and
everyone that watches this channel and listens to the podcast
Yes.
is familiar with Lisa Lee.
Yes,
I
love
have
her.
encouraged her to start her own channel.
She should.
But she's kind of busy right now. So.
Yes. And another person that I really look up to is Sharon McKee.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that she says, and because she is getting her degree in psychology, I think it is what it is. She's in that field or whatnot.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that she says is just so empowering. And I just inspire. Those are my role models. So this is definitely something that I would love to pursue and shine a light on.
Praise God. It's amazing. I feel the same way about people that struggle with postpartum depression, anxiety. I told the Lord, if I ever meet somebody who is struggling, I will do everything I can to help them.
Yeah.
It just puts some fire in your gut to help others that are struggling with the same thing. And so Ellie is such an example of a godly Christian young lady. She plays piano, right?
Yeah, and
sings.
She's a worship leader.
Leads worship.
Yes.
So what the enemy meant for evil, God is going to turn for your good, and for so many others that are going to be touched. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share?
I just want to take a moment to encourage you. You are strong.
Yeah.
You have power.
Yeah.
And
so good.
because you are a victim does not mean you can't do anything you put your mind to.
Come on.
And you are so strong. And everything that I'm saying is what was relayed to me talking to other victims of sexual abuse and sexual assault. And you are capable of so much. And if you keep pursuing the Lord and you keep pursuing the right things and the right perspectives and the right mindsets, God's going to lead you to where you need to go.
Yes,
100%.
I just believe the Lord is going to move through this video, through Ellie and what God has called her to. I'm just so thankful, so thankful. So we love all of you.
Yes.
Definitely praying for all of you. If you would like a part 2 to this video, if you feel like there is another direction we need to go on another video, please reach out. You can either private message me or just leave a comment on this video, and I'll talk to Ellie, and I'm sure you'd be willing to come back on and do a part 2. If there's an area that you feel like we need to go a little deeper, of course, we will pray and see what the Lord has to say about that. We always want to stay within his boundaries of this channel. But thank you, Ellie, for coming on. I want to thank her mom and dad for allowing her to come on. Not only is Ellie super brave, but her parents just want a light shined on this as well, and I'm so thankful for that.
So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It was awesome.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate it.
All right, and I will see you all next time. Have a great week.